All right, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Friday. We made it. For those of you guys who are still in the rat race, we made it. Um, so just wanted to say welcome back to day 5 of our liftoff challenge. We have had a very intense week of me yelling at you guys, telling you guys what you need to do and tips and tricks that is going to help you guys get over the edge in this journey of entrepreneurship. So today I figured that it would be a perfect way to end by talking about burnout. It's very easy to get burnt out in this journey of entrepreneurship. It's very easy to stay up until 4 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Friday, and forgetting that you're married. And then all of a sudden you get out and you're like, who is this random woman in my living room? I haven't seen her in 2 weeks. Um, so we brought in a very special friend of mine. We've done work in the past together. She's absolutely great. She's just like us. We don't believe in sugarcoating, and she says it how it is. And that's why we brought her on. And today we're going to be discussing the topic of how to avoid burnout in entrepreneurship. So without further ado, Kate, the floor is all yours.
All right. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. And I also have to say before we get started that I'm really impressed with everyone who came before me this week. I really loved the 7 levels deep exercise that Mariah shared earlier in the week. I think it was Wednesday. It was a really good
Yeah,
one.
yeah, that one hit home.
That one hit home. That was a
Yeah.
really good exercise, and I was really impressed. So I just wanted to give a shout out to everybody that showed up and help out this week, to be part of this challenge and to share their expertise, especially during this week. There's a lot of heavy energy that everybody's working with. There's a lot going on. So I especially appreciate everyone's extra energy this week, and people really showed up in this group. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's an amazing. We're trying to start our movement.
I like it. I like it. So before I jump into this, you guys, I just want to take a moment to let you know why I talk about burnout all the time, because aside from this week in my feed, which is very concentrated on Black Lives Matters and racial equality, my weeks before that for the past about 3 years have been nonstop information about burnout. And I write about it so much because I lived it for a long time. And I initially thought that I burnt out once or twice and I was sort of healthy in the middle. And when I really started digging through my story to write my book, what I realized was that I had actually been burnt out for about 7 years. And I kept sort of like halfway healing and then falling back into the hole, and halfway healing and falling back into the hole. And I have never had any other job but working for myself since I graduated college. So during college and high school, I worked in restaurants. During college, I was a bartender. So I spent a lot of time working in very high intensity situations. And then I finished my master's degree in Chinese medicine, moved to Poland from California, halfway across the world to get married to a Polish man, built a business in Poland, was very successful, and I was shocked because I got to that very high level and I was not happy. I was not okay. I was tired. My body was breaking down and I didn't understand why. And that cycle really did continue for about 7 years until somebody told me about burnout. I read an article online and my whole body just sort of exploded with, holy shit, that's what's happening to me. That's what's been happening to me. So I talk about this so much because I really believe that if we can address this issue, we will put more money into entrepreneurial hands, and entrepreneurial hands are shown to be more generous with their donating abilities and more socially conscious. And so I want more money going into entrepreneurial adventures rather than always going to Target and Amazon and Walgreens and Walmart and whoever else. So it's really important to me that we learn how to take care of our entrepreneurs, because also as an entrepreneur, you tend to be a do-it-yourselfer. Right, you tend to wear all the hats. You do the marketing, you do your funnels, you set up all your emails, you do your social media, you do provide whatever service it is, or that you provide, or create what product it is that you sell. You're doing your own financials, and it's a lot. It's a lot to wear all those hats every day. So I feel like entrepreneurs are especially susceptible to burning out. So that's another reason why this is so important to me. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of a background story to say like why this matters to me, and why I could bother to talk about it for so many years already. And I have a podcast about it. I wrote a book about it. Like I'm like hashtag obsessed kind of with the subject of burnout. So the next thing that we need to talk about is what burnout actually is. And last time Luis and I had a conversation, we talked a lot about how the physical symptoms, the physical manifestations of burnout can vary really, really widely from person to person. And anything in your life, anything in your body that gets worse with stress is a component of burnout, or can be a component of burnout. So if you put a list together of the physical symptoms that can manifest as burnout, you have like fatigue, hair loss, weight gain, hormonal imbalance. If you are a menstruating female, you can have cycle irregularities, anger issues, irritability, inability to exercise, where you might have been an exerciser in the past, but you just can't. And even when you do, you're so tired after that you can't function. Brain fog is another one. And we could go on and on and on. I've had clients and patients over the years that had thyroid issues, that had diabetes, or like insulin resistance type issues related to their burnout, headaches, migraines, muscle aches, joint aches. All of those things can be related to burnout. So in order to say that someone has burnout, there is a series of 3 different sort of diagnostics. It's not really a diagnosis because it's not really a singular defined medical condition. It's defined as in the World Health Organization as a occupational hazard, which means it has to do with your work. But I like to stretch that out a little bit because we have to include stay-at-home mothers as having a full-time job. Also, they say it's occupational, but your occupation can be in your house and it can still be a hazard. And it can be something that you love and it can still be a hazard. I love acupuncture and Chinese medicine. I always have. I still burnt out doing it. So passion doesn't protect you from it. Love for your children doesn't protect you from it. Right? This is really important. So they give us 3 things that we need to have in place if we are to name burnout in our lives. The first one is physical and emotional exhaustion. So basically, you're wiped out. You're tired in every single way. You have no bandwidth for emotions. You have no bandwidth for physical action. You're wiped out on every level. That's number 1. Number 2 is like a negative attitude. I call this your internal negative Nancy is really loud. No matter what you see the bad part of it. You're very cynical. And this is not just the same as like having a glass half empty. And so this is not just simple pessimism. This is like an inability to find the good. And I will add, just as a short aside, when you're really burnt out, you should not be searching for the good just yet. If you are not quite burnt out, then searching for the good and using gratitude can help you prevent it. But if you're already there, that's not a good measure. So we'll get into that a little bit later. And the third thing you need to have in order to say you have burnout is that you feel that your work is not impactful on the world. You don't feel a deep enough sense of meaning. Right? So if we take those and we flip them around, what we see is that we are overacting in an area of our lives. We're overgiving, overdoing in a thing that we have not understood how to pull fulfillment from. So I was doing acupuncture and I was doing fertility acupuncture. So I was helping people have babies. And to be perfectly frank, that was not very exciting to me. It should be exciting, right? It should fall under exciting things that people do because it's important. People are really trying for it. People are spending a lot of money to make it happen. It's supposed to be this magical thing. It didn't hit me that way. So while I knew that on paper my work was important, I didn't feel that. I'm gonna slow down there for a second. I know I talk quickly, But even though I knew in my head that the work that I was doing had value and was important, I did not feel its value. And that, my friends, is both a cause of and a symptom of burnout. I'm going to let that sink in for a second. A lot of things in the burnout world are stuck on this sort of cycle where we're not sure if because of it we're burnt out, or because we're burnt out it's happening, like we're stuck on this cycle really often where almost anything in the burnout realm can be a cause of or a symptom of burnout. And this is a really, really good example. So like I said, as an entrepreneur, you are going to be wearing all the damn hats, especially for the first couple of years. Maybe you'll have a viral post and you'll blow up within 6 months, but especially if you're an entrepreneur in the online space, it usually takes longer than that. I'm not saying that you can't blow up and be magical tomorrow. Do not get me wrong, right? However, the most typical speed at which it happens is a little bit slower than most of us would want. Because as entrepreneurs, we are highly ambitious. We know that we have control over what's happening in our businesses until, the world does whatever it does and takes that feeling of control away. That a lot of us went into entrepreneurship to have that control, only to find out that you don't always have it, which is it's a little disturbing. But we do wear all the hats. So I broke today up into sort of two sections on what to do about burnout. The first thing that I'm going to start with in every section is what to do if you're not burnt out to protect yourself. And then I'm going to expand upon that and let you know, if you're already burnt out, is it the same action that will help you, or is it something different? All right, so I'm going to start with something that I already mentioned earlier, that if you are not burnt out, or if you're just feeling a little crispy around the edges, but you're not really physically ill yet, you're not so tired that you can't get your work done, you still know that there's meaning in your work, it's just fading, all of these things are fading a little bit, but you're still sort of okay, then having a gratitude practice could literally change your life. And when I say have a gratitude practice, I do not mean by any stretch of anybody's imagination that you should say, I'm grateful for my house and my family and my kid, and no. Gratitude practices, in order to be successful, in order for your brain to adjust and to feel them so that they're valuable, gratitude practices must be very specific. So for instance, right now, I am very grateful that this red marker has a full amount of ink, because the last red marker I tried to use, I can only write if it's straight up and down because it's running out of ink. I'm really, really grateful that I don't have to think about how I'm going to hold this pen when I write, because thinking about how I hold this pen when I write it wastes my energy. So I'm really grateful that this marker is full of ink today. I am talking that specific. If in the morning you made yourself a cup of coffee in your favorite mug and the first sip of it filled you with joy, that's on your gratitude list. And you should be making a list of 3 to 5 things a day that when you write them down, you can feel a physical sensation of joy, right? Like, I really am happy that I don't have to worry about this marker. And I use that example mostly because this marker was in my hand as I was sitting talking with you. And I hadn't considered that I was happy about it yet, but when I think about it, I really am pretty happy that I don't have to waste energy putting my arm in a funny position so that the marker will write. Gratitude has to be very, very, very specific. The second part of gratitude that you must have, which I just alluded to, is you must have a physical sensation. I said joy. You can feel that it's gratitude, but what does that feel like in your body? For me personally, it feels like a tingling all over my skin and an expansion around my heart. That's what gratitude feels like in my body. You will have to find out what it means in your body for yourself. Everybody's a little bit different. Usually there is some feeling of expansion. That's a common word that people use, but it could be that you feel a light in your solar plexus. It could be that a weight drops from your shoulders. It could be whatever it happens to be for you. But in order for a gratitude practice to actually, because gratitude practices actually change the way that your brain is formed, physically improve your brain function, right? So this is not like, oh, it's going to make you feel better. No, no, no. Like, this literally puts a filter in your brain, adds a new brain groove that says, notice good things, right? And our brains are automatically set up to look for the bad things. In 75% of cases, 75 to 85% of cases is what's tagged in neuroscience as our negativity bias. And this, it was our, once upon a time, our ability to survive, right? We always had to be aware if there was an animal that was going to be harmful to us, or if we were running out of food, or if our children were safe, in danger, whatever. We still have to worry about our children being safe, but you know what I mean? So our brains developed in a way that said, look for all the terrible shit around you to make sure you can protect yourself. And we don't have as many things to look out for anymore, but our brains still do that. And if you want to look that up a little further to read about it, it's just Google negativity bias. And my suggestion would be to read things from medical journals about it, because it will go into the neuroscience of what's happening, and that's important. So gratefulness, when practiced on a regular basis, when you're not burnt out already, when you're mostly feeling okay, increases your ability to see positivity over that natural 30% that's available to you. If your negativity bias is 70, right? 75, 85, whatever. But say it's that your negativity bias is 70, so your positive is 30. Doing a gratitude practice on a regular basis will push that natural edge back, so that you have more space to notice natural positivity in your life and less space to notice negativity in your life. It's amazing. It is absolutely phenomenal how this works. However, my burnt out friends in the group, if you try and do a gratitude journal, you're just going to hate everybody. And that is the truth. It's annoying to do a gratitude journal when you're burnt out, because your brain is now in like the 95 percentile negativity bias. It cannot really see, like, you're supposed to be grateful. It's not that you don't know that. You're not stupid. You might even have a really beautiful life. I know when I first burnt out, I was like more successful than I am right now. I was at the top of my game. I was balling. I could not accept that I wasn't grateful, because I should be grateful. If you look on paper, I have all these things, all these attributes, all these abilities, all these successes, all these accomplishments, right? But I didn't feel them. I didn't feel, it's, when you hear somebody talking and you're like, I know I should be grateful, but, right, you might be burnt out. If you have an inability to feel a physical manifestation of gratitude, it's not going to be helpful for you to have a gratitude practice. And therefore, it is not something you should try to do, because when you try to do it and it does not increase your level of positivity and happiness in your life, you get even more frustrated and you think it's your fault, and it's not. So you start a self-judgment cycle. I know I should be feeling gratitude, look at all these beautiful things in my life, but I don't feel gratitude. So why do I not feel gratitude? I'm not a good person. And then you get stuck on this cycle, and we're in the negative self-talk, cynicism, which is the second thing that we need to diagnose burnout, right? So this gets caught on this cycle. So if you are already burnt out, instead of a gratitude journal, I'm going to get, real cheeky. And I'm going to ask you instead to write a resentment journal. Start making notes of all the places that you are consistently irritated, that you're feeling resentment. If you walk in the house and you notice that the dishwasher that you started this morning is still full because nobody emptied it, and you are feeling resentful that you have to empty it, but then you go empty it anyway with a fucking attitude, write that shit down. Write all of it down. If you have a particular customer who writes to you way more frequently than is like socially acceptable and is constantly asking you for more things, even though they only bought your $27 ebook, right? If you're annoyed by that, write that shit down. We need to start keeping track of all the places where your boundaries have been crossed and where you have crossed your own boundaries, where you have, set a boundary at some point and you decided that you were going to keep it, but you didn't. You overgave to someone and then they took advantage of it. And let's just go ahead really quick and say that people that take advantage of other people overgiving are not bad. They don't know that you're overgiving. When somebody asks you for something and you give it to them, they assume that you have the bandwidth to give it. So then they ask for more because you had the bandwidth to give that. Maybe you have the bandwidth to give something else. If you don't let them know that you cannot, it is not their job to notice when your bandwidth is short. So very often in these resentment situations, what's happening is you are breaking your own boundaries for someone else's comfort and pleasure, instead of letting them know that whatever it is that they want is not possible for you. Because you're afraid to say no, you're afraid to lose a client, you want to be seen as a nice, generous person, which you probably are anyway, right? But you cannot blame other people for constantly going back to the same store that has the thing that they love. You're the store. You have the thing that they love, and you keep giving it to them, so they keep coming back. Why would they go somewhere else? Why would they not ask? Right? So when you're writing the resentment journal, it is very important to realize that we are not looking on any level at all to blame other people. This is not helpful, right? Because usually when it comes down to resentment, it is about us crossing our own internal boundaries. So I want you to, if you are already burnt out, start a resentment journal. After you've done it for 10 to 14 days, this is like the bare minimum. You need to keep it going for a little while, 10 to 14 days of noticing it. You will be more irritable during this time. Just a warning, because you're paying attention. Your next job will be to sort through, read over the resentment journal, and see which things repeat the most frequently. Are you annoyed that, I did this a few years ago and I realized that one of the things that was making me the craziest was that I was writing emails back and forth with my patients like 12 times just to get them scheduled for an appointment. And I was annoyed about it like 3 times a day because I had 45 patients a week and they all needed to be scheduled. And nobody can ever schedule that. They write to you and say, I can do Wednesday at 12 or 12:30. And you write back and say, great, Wednesday at 12:30. They're like, oh, can you make it 1 o'clock? Right? You go crazy. So my solution to this was to use an online scheduler. I got an online scheduler. I sent the link to people. They booked their own damn appointments. They rescheduled them when they wanted to. And I was freed from doing all of this extra work that didn't actually need to involve me for an investment of $9 a month, right? Totally worth it. So when you look over your resentment journal, you will see some things that are repetitive. If you are getting the same questions over and over that you think should be obvious on your website, I see this all the time. People say, I don't know why people keep asking me this. It's so obvious. If it's not obvious to them, it's time for you to write an FAQ section. They're not finding it on your website. That it might be literally right in front of their faces. But if you have an FAQ section to your website, even if they do write to you, you copy and paste the link to your FAQ section and you send it to them and they can look for it themselves, thus saving you 20 minutes of explaining the same damn thing over and over and over and over. Or if you have the finances available to you, that's something you outsource to a VA. Every time you get one of those emails, you forward it to your VA and you say, answer this, please. You don't have to do it. But in order to find out which things are costing you energy and burning you out, we need to have that resentment journal, and we need to have it long enough so that we can pick out these places and say, oh, well, this needs to change. This needs to change. This needs to change. And then once you start taking those things off your plate, you will notice that you have much more time, space, and energy available to do the things that you actually want to do in your business, and you will be less angry and less resentful and less burnt out. At which point you can start a gratitude journal, right? And your marker for whether or not you have cut out enough things that you really don't want to do. You have either cut something out, delegated something, or put up a boundary, right? So those are your three options. Sometimes you can just drop something completely. You notice you're really irritated about it and you know that it literally adds nothing to your business, like get rid of it. So that's one option when you have something that you resent. The next option is to delegate it to somebody else. Either an automated, and delegation to me means either automate it or send it to your VA or whoever else is doing it. If you have a Kajabi guy, you send it to your Kajabi guy if it's Kajabi, whatever. So those two. And then the last thing that you can do is put up a boundary, which means that you might be clarifying in your emails, after this $27 book, like I'm not available for questions. Or if you need a question asked, go to this FAQ page, or join my Facebook group and read the questions there. Do a search in my Facebook group. Like I'm not available by email. But you have to put that boundary up because people don't know how much energy and time you have. It's for no one else to decide but you. So if they don't know and you don't teach them, they're not going to know. It's very, very simple. So this is one of the very first things that I think that you should do as an entrepreneur if you are not yet burnt out, gratitude. If you are already burnt out, resentment. The next thing is going to sound really simple and really basic, and I guarantee about 70% of the people don't do it. If you are not burnt out yet, you should have a physical every single year. Full blood work, full urine analysis, make sure you're not low on vitamin D, iron, make sure your platelets are okay. Just get the basic rundown every single year. Don't wait 2 years, do it every year. So that if something is off, even if you don't feel it yet, you can address it right away. Right? Very simple. I do have most of my burnout coaching clients see a doctor before we start. First of all, I have them do a Chinese medicine health evaluation, which I evaluate myself. So I can see any consistencies to say, well, you've been drinking a lot of ginger tea, but ginger is really warming and you need mint, whatever, mint is cooling. So I do that part, but I also send them to their GP, their general physician, because I need to know that they have enough vitamin D. I need to know that their blood levels are okay overall, that their liver enzymes aren't elevated, or that something else isn't going on. Because I have seen multiple times people who thought they were burnt out and then found out that they had a gluten allergy and stopped eating gluten and they were fine. It wasn't their business. It wasn't fulfillment. It was a food allergy. Right? So I don't want to be burnout coaching you if you have a food allergy. Well, Luis is giving me some high fives in the background, right? This is really, really important because sometimes it is just physical. So I need you to take care of your physical body. So if you're not burnt out yet, just go every single year, get your blood work done. If you have extra finances, find a functional medicine doctor and have them run deeper panels and deeper labs because they have a little bit stronger abilities than a regular Western doctor. If you have the ability to see some sort of alternative medicine practitioner every so often, even once a month, just to do something to maintain your energy, do it. That's important. That matters. Like you have to take care of your physical body as an entrepreneur in a very big way. This is really important. If you are already burnt out, you've got to go to your doctor, and do all the damn tests, everything that you can get him to do, because we really need to know what it is your body needs before we move forward. I have never, ever had somebody come back and have enough vitamin D. Most people are also low, especially people that are burnt out. Most people are low on magnesium. These are easy fixes, you guys. It takes 2 or 3 weeks of taking a supplement for you to feel better. Of course, you have to maintain that supplement most likely. But say you are magnesium deficient and you have coffee every day because you're so tired. Coffee drains magnesium. If you can switch out your coffee and take a magnesium supplement, within a couple of weeks, you're going to be feeling like a different person. If your magnesium is low, you can have problems with digestion, you can have problems sleeping, you can have muscle aches and pains. We're talking about a lot of the symptoms that go with burnout that are related to a magnesium deficiency. So when you're burnt out, you really have to do as in-depth labs as you possibly can to find out what could be improved physically in your body. And most of the time, you need to drink more water. Literally, 75% of brain fog, which is a very big burnout symptom, is due to dehydration. 75% of brain fog is due to dehydration. I don't want to be coaching you when you have brain fog, especially if it's from dehydration. It's just a waste of your time and money and a waste of my time. We need to make sure that you are as physically healthy as possible before we start healing your burnout, because that is a part that matters. This goes into the next thing, which is the next thing within your physical body. The first thing is go to the doctor. The second thing is exercise. If you are not burnt out and you are not moving, and you're an entrepreneur and you sit at a desk for 6 to 8 hours a day or longer, I see you, right? You're sitting at a desk all day and you are not taking 20 to 30 minutes a day to move your body. I don't care if you are doing Tai Chi or CrossFit. I do not care. But you must move your body if you are not already burnt out. However, if you are already very burnt out, physical exercise, especially cardio, needs to be cut way back, if not out completely, for some time. When you are burnt out, you are not getting the nutrients that you need from your food. You are physically exhausted. And sometimes your muscles start to atrophy. So, when I burnt out, I had a 4-minute walk from the tram to my apartment in Prague. And it was uphill, and it was a pretty steep hill, but it was 4 minutes, like really close. We're talking 2 blocks, people. And when I was burnt out, I couldn't get up that hill. I have been an athlete my entire life. I was a competitive gymnast. Then I was the captain of the field hockey team. I have always exercised. But it got to the point where running a 5K meant that I had to sleep for 3 days. I would get through the 5K because mentally I'll push myself through that. But my recovery time was ridiculous. So if you are to the point where physical exercise is not energizing you, it needs to really, really come down, and you need to start doing, you still need to move, but you need to start doing really simple things like 15 minutes of yin yoga, which will mean with yin yoga, that means it's only 5 positions that you're holding for 3 to 5 minutes. Like, I'm talking very, very simple stuff. 5 minutes of qigong or tai chi in the morning, just to let things flow a little bit. But if you are already burnt out and you're doing a soul cycle 3 times a week, like, you're going to pass out during soul cycle and you're going to hit your head on the seat of the bike next to you. And you better hope nobody's on it, because that would be really uncomfortable for both of you. Right? This is really important, and people don't seem to get this. Like, this is something that people say, but exercise is healthy. Yeah, it is most of the time. When you're freaking exhausted and you can't function, Stop doing cardio. Don't go to kickboxing class 4 times a week, right? That's really, really super important. The next thing as an entrepreneur that you should be doing on a regular basis to avoid burnout, and for me, a regular basis means quarterly. So every 3 months, you should review your definition of success. What the heck does that mean? You might not even know what your definition of success is. And if you don't, you should probably find out. Because very often we end up burnt out because we borrowed a definition of success from someone in our families. And we are fighting to stay on that path because we learned and absorbed and inherited the information that if we follow this and do this thing that these people want us to do, we will be happy, successful, and fulfilled. And guess what? What they wanted isn't always aligned with what you want in your life. And sometimes we choose, this is what happened to me, we choose definitions of success that are the opposite of what we saw. Right? So I grew up in a family that was very low income, and my parents prized time over money in a massive, massive way, to the point where they both chose jobs that they were making much less money than they had the potential to make, because they preferred to have time freedom. So I started college in the year 2000. I went to Boston University, and Boston University was $36,000 a year, the year that I started. I thankfully had a full scholarship, because otherwise, and the year that I applied, my parents made $32,000 combined. So $4,000 less than the amount it was going to cost me to go to school the following year. And so my parents valued time, and they instilled that into us, that was very important. It was important to have balance. It was important to enjoy your life, that the money doesn't matter if you have no time to enjoy it. This was a very important message in my household. And you know what I thought? I want to buy a fucking pair of shoes when I want one, instead of waiting to have holes. So I went the opposite of what they intended to teach me. And I thought, I have got to make money, because I don't want to be nervous about needing a new outfit because I can't afford it. When it was winter time and my winter coat was too small, I didn't want to tell my parents, because I knew it was going to be difficult for them to replace it. So sometimes I wore coats that were too small. Not for long, and not usually. My parents they always figured it out. But I couldn't go to the mall. We went to secondhand shops, we went to discount shops, we went where we had to go to get the things that we needed. But I grew up with this like burning desire to be able to, and literally, you guys, I'm talking Gap was out of our reach when I was a kid. So I had a burning desire to be able to go into the mall and go into Gap and buy a pair of jeans that weren't on sale. That was important to me, and that became my definition of success. So I got to the point financially where I could do whatever the hell I wanted, and I realized it didn't work for me. So if I had taken time while I was going up that mountain to stop and say, okay, this is how much money I have now. How do I feel? Is this still my definition of success? Are there other things that I need in order to feel successful as a person? I wouldn't have done fertility work for so long, because I would have known that that doesn't fit into my definition of success. I was happy for the people that I helped, of course, but I was doing the thing that was going to make me the most money. I wasn't doing the thing that was going to make me the happiest person. This is really important. So if you are an entrepreneur, you should be doing quarterly reviews of your success definition. And if you have never done a definition of success, I want you to go search online, literally Google definition of success, and see what pops up. Go to the images, because a lot of times they come up in memes like Instagram posts and stuff, and you can see really a lot of different people's views, so that you can choose something that is in alignment with who you are. This is really important. If you are already burnt out, You need to be doing this monthly. The same exercise, but you have got to do it constantly so that you know that you're on the right path. If you burnt out previously and you're now not burnt out anymore, you're recovered, you still need to be doing this monthly, because you are in danger of falling down a rabbit hole of, I must be successful this way. It's really hard to break those patterns if you're not looking at them consistently. So every 3 months, you do a success review, definition of success review, and you stop and you say, is this what I want it to be? Right? And something that I said just now is, the definition of success that you have is not in alignment with you. And the word alignment is very popular these days, alignment and authenticity. And I don't know that most people know what it actually means. We talk about those things a lot, but we don't actually talk about what it means to embody those things. And for me, in order to check if you are in alignment with yourself and you are being authentic to the person that you are, you should know what your core values are, and you should make decisions in your business based on your core values. And I have a freebie that's about like learning what your core values are. So I can put a link to that later on so you guys can grab it if you want. But you can probably look them up online too. There's a million of them. Like living your core values exercises are all over the place, because if you figure out what your values are, it's much easier to define your success. And it's much easier to make decisions along the way that will keep you in alignment with that definition of success that suits your core values. Does that make sense? So if you do not know what your core values are, so I didn't realize financial independence and prosperity are definitely on my top 5 list. I just didn't realize that they weren't number 1. I had them listed as number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That was the only thing on my list, because it was the thing I was missing as a child, right? It was the only thing on my list over and over and over and over again. So I had to really do this exercise quite a few times to figure out, okay, where is it that I'm going? Where is it that I'm going? Where is it that I'm going? Very often as entrepreneurs, you get into a place where you put on blinders and you just move forward as quickly as you possibly can, because you really want to get to the place that you think that you're going. But if you don't stop along the way to see if you're still on the right path, to see if the map that you drew is the one that you actually want to take, it can lead you straight to burnout town. Right? So these are, I think I just gave you guys a ton of stuff and I spoke really quickly. So we're only at 8:43 and we have a little bit more time. And I don't want to, especially for those of you who are burnt out in the crowd already, I do not want to overload you with information, because burnt out brains don't do well with information. So what I'm going to do now is take a minute to describe to you what happens to your brain when you're burnt out, so that you know that what's happening is actually like a physiological process in your body. This is not, oh, she's burnt out, she needs like some mental health support, she needs to change her mindset, she'll be fine. Like, it's not that simple with burnout. So in your brain, this lovely section in here, right behind your forehead, so happy I have this red marker, this lovely section right behind your forehead, especially the left side, is called the prefrontal cortex. And your prefrontal cortex is responsible for executive functioning. So it's where your logic comes from. It's where you have the ability to create space between an action and a reaction, between something happening in your life and your emotional reaction to it. It's where you have an emotional reaction come up, and then you're able to sift through it and say, okay, is this really what I want to do, how I want to do it, et cetera, et cetera. It's the sound of reason in your head. It filters your emotional responses so that you can act in a way that is culturally and socially appropriate, for the most part. We all fuck that up sometimes. Whatever. And back here, we have the limbic system. Well, kind of more in here, but whatever. We have the limbic system, and we have your amygdala, And these are things that react to your world in an animal way. So you feel threatened and you either feel anger or fear right away, depending on what your mode of attack is going to be. Like, are you going to run away or are you going to attack? Like, whatever happens to be, you know. So when you are burnt out, it's also your stress management system. So anytime stress comes in the body, it goes through your limbic system, and your limbic system filters it so that your body doesn't have to take all of it on. However, when you're burnt out, your limbic system is overloaded, so it has no more space to take in any additional stress. And so your reactions are sent directly to your deep, deep, like animal brain, which means that something happens and you just explode. And 5 minutes later, logically, you know that that was like an inappropriate action, but in the moment, you couldn't control yourself because you have this explosive thing coming from your animal brain and your prefrontal cortex. When you are burnt out, I want you guys to listen to this because it's crazy. When you are burnt out, your prefrontal cortex actually shrinks. So you don't even physically have the same amount of brain available to process your emotional reactions or to filter them before they leave your mouth and enter the world. So I want you to imagine that the stress management happens back here and then it shoots out the front, shoots straight out through your mouth most of the time. But if this front doesn't have any filter, then you are exploding stuff and it just even doesn't make sense to you. So often my clients say to me, I am a raging bitch to my family and I know I'm being ridiculous when I look at it after the fact, but I can't stop myself. I can't help myself. And literally what I want you to know is right now where your brain is, you can't. You literally can't. Your brain can regrow. Acupuncture is great for brain regrowth. The proper nutrition is amazing for brain regrowth. Time away from screens, even though I love that you're here with me right now. Time away from screens is really great for brain regrowth. Meditation is amazing for brain regrowth, but when you are already burnt out, meditation is very, very, very difficult. Right? So breathing exercises for no more than 3 minutes is what I suggest. So if you are not burnt out yet, creating a meditation practice is a wonderful idea. If you are already burnt out, I want you to limit any type of meditative practice to 3 minutes of breathing. And notice, take note, ding, I'm a little asterisk over here. Take notice that I did not say deep breathing, because most of the time when you are burnt out, there is some sort of past trauma. We're not going to get into that today. That's a whole nother thing. But there is some past trauma, which might mean that you don't feel safe or you have an inability to take a breath that goes all the way into your belly. So if you can only breathe to here comfortably, that's totally acceptable for a breathing practice, as long as you stop and do it for 3 minutes. You don't have to do it longer than 3 minutes. 3 minutes is enough to calm your vagus nerve, to allow your brain to regrow a little bit, to allow your body to enter the more relaxed nervous system state, right? We have two states of our nervous system. One of them is fight or flight, and the other one is rest and digest, it's called. So in order to move from fight or flight, which if you're burnt out, you're in fight or flight all the time, constantly, without break. And in order to move into the rest and digest and rejuvenate cycle, it takes 3 minutes of breathing, any kind of breathing. So I usually ask people, if they're already burnt out, to not, they start meditating and then they're really frustrated because the meditation isn't helping and they can't sit there and they get distracted and la 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 la. I ask them to find a song that they love. I don't care if it is reggaeton or classical music. It literally doesn't matter. Put the song on, make sure it's at least 3 minutes long, and breathe while you listen to the song. If you are also dancing because it's reggaeton, fine. If you are laying down on your bed with your eyes closed because it's classical music, fine. I don't care. Make a point to create 3 minutes during your day where the only thing you'll be doing is listening and breathing. This will help you to enter a state where your brain can regrow again. And if you are really far gone, I really do suggest some type of healing practice. I mean, chiropractic is helpful, acupuncture is helpful, Reiki is helpful, massage is helpful. Whatever it is that you can afford and have access to, I suggest doing. Craniosacral therapy is really good for it. That's another one, right? But I really suggest doing it. Acupuncture has been proven to help the brain regrow. It's one of the reasons that I love that I can do coaching for burnout, and I can also, when I have coaching clients in New York City, I can also treat them with acupuncture because it just makes everything so much stronger. I really, really think that that's a great way to do things. I just do want you to recognize that if you have an inability to do some type of self-care when you're burnt out, you're not doing anything wrong. Your brain isn't allowing you to do that. Your body isn't allowing you to do that. And you need to find different ways, usually smaller, slower ways that will feel insignificant to you, because those of us that burn out, we have very high expectations for ourselves. So we don't understand how 5 minutes of laying on the floor in corpse pose is going to help us as much as we think a half an hour run will help us. But when we're burnt out, it will. And I need you to hear that today, because if you are already burnt out, the typical self-care tricks and tips that are spread around the internet, they're not it. They're just not it. And you will get very frustrated saying, I'm doing all these things to help myself. I'm doing all the right things that everybody's writing about, and I don't feel better, because what you need is something a little different, a little deeper, a little more personalized, a little more specific to who you are. That's important. And I think that's probably a pretty intense 52 minutes. What do you think, Louise?
Yeah, no, that like, you guys have no idea how much I needed to hear this. Because it's funny, because I had recently just got off of a 90-day weight loss challenge, and I was doing the workout. I love to exercise, but like, after the challenge, I haven't worked out since I've done it. And my wife is like, you need to get back on it. You were doing so good. I'm like, I don't have a desire to exercise. And I had the desire, but I can't physically get myself to do it. And listening to you talk just really made me realize that maybe it's not cardio that I need to be doing, because that's what I was doing. I was doing cardio. Maybe I need to switch to yoga and just have a month of yoga to just restart. This whole, I mean, you guys were watching, couldn't see me in the background, but I was getting hyped the whole time, because honestly, I don't know if you can see the comments, Kate, but in the comments, I've had people talking about Nikki and Lisa. Lisa said, this is so good. Nikki talks about her experience with being burnt out. So this is definitely a topic that people are going through, and no one wants to talk about it. That was the reason why, guys. And I know that a lot of people joined this challenge, and I'm going to be very straight up. This challenge for me, the purpose of this challenge for me is to weed out who I want to work with and who I don't want to work with. Because anybody who joined this challenge and has not done any of the homework assignments, who has not gone live because they're just waiting for next week to start, because we're going to show how to do a Facebook ad. Because all you can think about is, show me how to do a Facebook ad so I can convince someone to buy my product. Those are not the people I want to work with. Period. Like, I'm tired of entrepreneurship being taught as entrepreneurship is a way to make money. No, entrepreneurship is a mindset. Entrepreneurship is a way of life. And the reason why we did this first week of mindset training, the reason why we brought in guest speakers, guys, who are not doing this for free. We invested money for you guys because we want you guys to understand that there needs to be a mindset shift before you even take or even think about having a dream about taking the first step. Like, that's how important it is. And that's why we brought in the topics of how to overcome mental roadblocks. That's why we brought in the topics of how to determine your purpose, how to tell your story using emotions, how to trigger emotions in people, because the fastest way to make money is to have two people having an emotional conversation. That's why we did this week of mindset training. That's why we brought in Kate to talk about burnout, because I am an example of, and when Kate and I first did our talk, she put me on the spot with my marriage. And my wife is very thankful that she did, because I was the guy, I was the husband that, you know, I grew up poor. I grew up a hustler in Miami. I had to always find ways to make money. So I was the one up until 2 a.m. trying to work on this business. And when she would tell, like, she would get upset, I was like, how dare you get upset? I'm trying to provide for this family. But then what she was seeing was I was getting burnt out. And because I was getting burnt out, my marriage was being affected. My communication was being effective. Guys, the statistics, quote unquote, say that 80% of communication is body language. I think it's way more. I think it's closer to 100, honestly. And that's one thing that, you know, I'm teaching my wife all the time, that she was like, but Louis, I didn't say that. I was like, but I felt it. I felt the vibe. Like, you're releasing it. Her uncle had to come and tell her, like, and she told my wife, like, your facial expressions, your face, like something as simple as the position of your eyebrows can tell a message. And if you do not know how to communicate correctly, I don't care if you're selling pure gold. No one's going to buy it from you. That's why we did this week. And we told you guys from the beginning that this was going to be like a mental boot camp for during the first week. We really wanted to grind this out. So yes, we're going to be talking about marketing next week. Yes, we're going to teach you guys marketing strategies. That's all great. But we really wanted to drive home the fact that you guys need to improve your self-care. You need to start prioritizing. Business is not more important than family. Money will come and go, but your family will be there. Like, business is not more important than your marriage. Prioritize the correct way. One thing that Kate said that I wrote down that I love was that money and prosperity was on her top 5, but she didn't realize it wasn't the top. It was on the list, but it wasn't on top of the list. So that really hit me, because that's the same position I'm in, where I definitely want to make money. Of course I do. I want to provide, but I'm not willing to sacrifice other things that are important to me for the sake of money. So guys, this was a super intense hour training. Guys, like, share. I will give you guys permission to share this. If you want this link, I will send it to you, and you guys need to share this to every single person that is an entrepreneur or is thinking about doing it, because honestly, this has probably been the best training I've personally been in so far when it comes to entrepreneurship. Kate, I appreciate everything you brought to the table. I appreciate you being real. Guys, I warned you from the beginning. I guess I have a different mindset. If I like things cut and dry, I like pouring salt on the wound. So, if it wasn't your cup of tea, there's other great videos on YouTube that you can watch for inspiration. But Kay is a published author. She's been on television in Europe over about this topic. She was extremely, extremely successful. So I wanted to bring her because she brings the pedigree, she brings the experience, she brings the rawness. And that's what I feel personally that entrepreneurs need to hear nowadays. We don't need to hear Tony Robbins fluff and stuff. We need to hear we need to hear cut and dry and really get to the pain point. So I appreciate you guys. Kate, if you want to just drop one last goodbye and one final mic drop for the audience.
You guys, thank you so much for being here. I told you in the beginning that this is a really important topic for me, and I was not kidding. I did not have notes for this talk. This is me speaking to you from the depths of my soul. I have been an entrepreneur for 14 years, and I'm only 38. So
we won't tell anyone.
I don't even care. I'm proud of it. So in that time, in those 14 years, I spent about half of them burnt out because even though I was a self-care specialist, I was a stress management specialist. Knowing Chinese medicine means that I automatically knew a lot of these things. But I didn't think that I deserved that care. Right? And so as an entrepreneur, you need to get to a place where you understand that you are the most important piece of your business. And if you are not kept whole and happy, your business, you and your business will both suffer. You are the golden goose, as Denise DT says in her book Chillpreneur. You have to take care of the golden goose. You're the golden goose. You matter.
That's awesome. Guys, I also have some of them asking about the test that you mentioned earlier. You'll put the link in the group for
I'll
them.
put I'll put it in.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much. And like I said, I'm not even gonna add anything to that because you are the golden goose. Like that's how we're gonna drop it. That's where we're gonna end it. I believe in you guys. The Vision Twins, we believe in you guys. My brother, my team. That's the reason why we're launching this movement. That's the reason why we are pouring ourselves into you guys, because we're tired of entrepreneurs being ripped off. We're tired of business owners having guys charge them 15 grand for marketing when no one knows your business better than yourself. So we're teaching you guys for you to dive into who you are, for you to really know what your business is really about, not what you think is about, and then we'll teach you how to market it. So that's the purpose. That's the end goal of this challenge. Thank you guys so much. We're going to be making an announcement probably tomorrow morning. We will have a voluntary Q&A. If there's enough people that want to go on a Q&A call and just ask us questions about any topic throughout the week, we'll do it. And we are going to be giving a $25 Amazon gift card away tomorrow via raffle. The only way you qualify for that, we already gave one to Julio Fernandez before the challenge starts, so he knows this, I'm a man of my word. The only way you're going to qualify for the raffle is you have to have done all the assignments in the unit section. And have gone live and be engaged. If you're someone who's on the bench, then you're not going to get anything. So we're here to, this is not for us. I'm financially great. This is for us to help you guys get to where you want to be. So have a great night, guys. Happy Friday. And Kate will be putting the link for that test, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great evening, everyone.